Yumyataba, Somitaba.
The Chief Director, Office of the Head of Civil Service, the Executive Secretary, GINKS, the Chairman of GINKS Board, Chief Directors and Directors from various NGOs, friends from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce the Chairman for this special Sensitization and launch of evidence-informed policy-making special course. I'm Chairman for this program, graduated from the Accra University of Science and Technology. He holds 2 masters in Business Administration from Amanda University, USA in 2006, and Masters in Organization Development from University of Cape Coast, Ghana in 2014. He joined the Management Services Division in 1988 as a management analyst and rose through the ranks to the post of Executive Secretary. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in 1995, he was posted to the Office of the Head of Civil Service, where he headed the Reform Coordinating Unit. Whilst heading the unit, he played a major role in developing a conceptual framework of performance agreements for chief directors in the civil service and managed its implementation. He also played a critical role in the development of service delivery brochures and standards for the civil service organization and the training of staff of the clients service unit of MDAs. His area of expertise includes organizational development, performance management, decentralization, public sector reform management, and policy analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, our chairman has participated in various workshops and seminars both in Ghana and abroad, and has served on a number of committees. He is currently listed as a member of the following reputable institutions: the Ghana Association of Consultants, the Honorable Order of Kentucky Kennels of USA, distinguished invited guests. I'm sure by now we all know who our Honorable Chairman is. Please join in welcoming Nana Percy Ejekumi Jamina, the acting head of.
It's gratifying to have all of you here at the sensitization and launch of the evidence-informed policy-making course. I'm thankful to all of you for coming, and I'm hoping that we'll have a good time. Based on that, I accept to chair this event. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, the head of the Civil Service, Nanake, the board chairman of GINKS, Dr. Joel Sam, our representatives from DFID, who happen to be our project sponsors, our directors from all the ministries. I believe most of you are still on the way here. The Executive Secretary of GINKS, Mr. Ibrahim Inusa, my colleagues and fellow facilitators, distinguished guests, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. On behalf of the head of the Civil Service, and on the behalf of the Civil Service Training Center, I welcome all of you to the sensitization and launch of the evidence-informed policy-making course. Mr. Chairman, it will interest you to know that, motivated by our dream of becoming a center of excellence and a citadel of knowledge for the civil and public service, and by that reproducing empowerment, the Civil Service Training Center has been striving relentlessly to support personnel in the service with cutting-edge courses. These are tailored to provide government officials with the expected competencies to discharge their duties creditably. This stream has given us the impetus to consistently enter into collaborative relations with strategic institutions to design, develop, and roll out relevant courses for the civil service. You may recall that CSTC has previously entered into such collaborative alliances with CEDA, the Commonwealth Secretariat, and the Japan International Cooperation Agency. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be aware of the fact that after the decoupling of the local government service from the civil service, one of the major assignments of the civil service is to develop and formulate policy options for the government. To facilitate the realization of this dream, the Civil Service Training Center looked for an institution which could support senior and middle level civil servants in assessing a course which would provide us with the skill set to function competently. It was indeed welcome news when we met with our strategic partners. And this is the Ghana Informed Information Network of Knowledge Sharing, simply called GINKS. They indicated their desire to support and partner the Civil Service Training Center, by that support the Ghana Civil Service with the evidence-informed policy making course. But the question is, what is evidence-informed policy making course? This course is an approach to development where policymakers are equipped with the necessary resources that position them to incorporate evidence into policies. This helps them to put the best available evidence at the center of the policy process. With evidence-informed policy intervention, participants of the course will gain the capacity to consider a broad range of research issues from citizens, from our political realities, from current public debates, and other stakeholders. Most importantly, this course also promises to leverage technology, that is ICT, to access the information which would invariably facilitate the job of policy formulation. My fellow directors, our desire is to customize this course to address the needs of the Ghana Civil Service. Our team of facilitators, in conjunction with our partners, that is GINKS, have started with a TMA and a draft curriculum for the course. We are yet to validate the information received so far. And for this reason, we would crave your indulgence to respond to our calls when we solicit your input for fine-tuning the course materials. This is very dear to our hearts. We believe that the civil service must own this particular program. And this will only happen when we know that we have played our respective roles in customizing the course to speak to our peculiar needs. So our directors will very much appreciate that if you should make time of your busy schedules too, to make the relevant input into making this course a flagship one. Our fellow civil servants, it is important to know that all prospective trainees have a role to play in gaining access to this course. Yes, the course is sponsored. That is how come David has come in so boldly. The course is a sponsored one. However, prospective trainers or prospective trainees will have to fill out application forms on the CSTC website. And the address is www.csTC.getafricaonline.com. This information will be given to you succinctly. But then I go through it again, www.csTC.getafricaonline.com. After having filled out the form, OHCS will make the final nominations of the successful applicants who will be sponsored on the course. Mr. Chairman, please permit me to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our sponsors, that is NEFIT. I can assure you, NEFIT, that your investments will really yield great results. These results will impact positively on the quality of policies and policy options that are provided to the government for the socio-economic development of the country. To my fellow trainers, I want to say, Ayuko. Ayuko for the great work done so far. And I know this course will equally become a flagship course for the civil service. So let's brace ourselves for much more work. And especially in this era where our salaries are determined by our performance, I believe my trainers, as you brace yourselves for much more work, it means you're also bracing yourselves up for much more money. True or false? Thank you. Thank you very much. So my trainers will be rich. And the beauty of it is CSTC trainers are not only permanent trainers here in the institution. We open up our hands to receive adjunct facilitators who are active or retired civil servants who have the flair for training in the civil service and even in the public service. What it means is, if you also want to join the train of those who are going to be rich so soon, then you want to come over. Let's work together as facilitators. So on those notes, my ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you once again to the Civil Service Training Center. Please enjoy yourselves and have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, our host. Your speech has really welcomed us and has made us comfortable in CSTC. We also want to hear a statement from the board chairman of GINKS, our partners that are helping us with this training program. So call on Dr. Wilson to give us a statement.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chairman, Head of Civil Service, I would like to say that for me, I'm very happy that we've had this occasion. 2 weeks ago, when we were planning this, we also were looking for the person to chair and to launch it. We were just hovering around, and the executive secretary came to tell me that, oh, the head of civil service has agreed to come and chair and to launch it. Thank you very much for the support. So I believe that this is going to be a very fruitful program, not only for the civil service, but for the country as a whole. And also through the introductions, I realize that chief directors are here. Normally, from us, from the research institutions, we think that those in the ministry are very busy people, that they don't have time for anything. But for chief directors and directors to come here to grace this occasion, we thank you very much for that. My statement is very simple. I mean, just to tell you about GINKS, what we're supposed to do. It's a non-governmental organization, Ghana Knowledge Information Network for Knowledge Sharing. Established about 11 years ago, 2003, with the support of a Dutch government program, that's the International Institute for Communication and Development, IIC. Basically to contribute to ICTs for development through enabling information and knowledge sharing on one hand, while stimulating networking and partnership on the other hand, in a practical manner, using people-led approaches. Our view is that individuals and organizations should have knowledge, they should share information, and that for us will facilitate our development. We say that knowledge is power, but we think that knowledge sharing is powerful. And that once we share knowledge, we should be able to help in our socio-economic development. The vision basically is that we want a society where all have equal access and use ICTs for national development. And thus we've been pursuing it in 4 core thematic areas: ICTs and gender, ICTs and youth, ICTs in education, and ICT in health. But then 3 years ago, based on our own experiences and working with various partners, we decided to venture into this area of evidence-informed policy making. We think that our policies should be informed by research, not that we decide to do whatever on the spur of the moment we decide to do ABCD, but to do that. So we've been working with INAS of the UK since 2011, and the decision was necessitated by the network's increasing role and experience in the field, as I've already said. So this program, that's the VACAICO, comes to consolidate our efforts in the past towards enhancing the quality of policies made in the country through the uptake of evidence in policy making departments. And we seek to establish one of the referral points for issues related to evidence-informed policy in Ghana. As I indicated at the beginning, we have been discussing for the past 1 year with CSTC, and we've come to this moment. So what I will say in brief is this, that we think that how we have worked so far harmoniously, I believe and trust that we'll continue to work to the end of the program. You know, the program is a 3-year one. The next phase will move to the Parliament of Ghana and for other organizations. But I think that this will be a test case, because already the Executive Secretary tells me that whatever that has been done here, DFID through INAS is asking us to share with our colleagues in South Africa, to share with our colleagues in Zimbabwe. They are also pursuing such a program, because VACAICO involves 3 countries. But it looks like Ghana is always a pace setter, and I think that not only we will have to see the start, but we need to finish and finish hard. I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I wish you all. Thank you very much.
We are here for the information, evidence-based. But before we proceed, we want to have much insight. So we'll have someone who's going to give us a presentation on the use of research evidence making in Ghana. This is the person of Mr. Ibrahim Amidu Tanku, the Programs Manager of STAR Ghana.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot to the organizers for the invitation to come and share some thoughts with you on the use of research evidence in policy making. STAR Ghana, maybe some of you may have heard of it, is a fund set up by a number of donors to support primarily Parliament and civil society organizations in influencing how decisions are made, how decisions are implemented, so that at the end of the day, we will have greater responsiveness and accountability in governance. Now, to influence the way decisions are made, the way decisions are implemented, requires evidence. You don't walk to the public servant, or you don't walk to Parliament and say, well, I think you should construct a road here, or I think you should change this education policy because I think so. It requires some evidence. And so a lot of our work in STAR Ghana has been around supporting various types of civil society organizations and Parliament to generate and use evidence in influencing how policies are made. I think this project is coming at an opportune time, at a very good time in our history. First of all, in the sense that as we talk about consolidating our democracy, we are talking increasingly about governance being responsive, more responsive to the citizens of this country. Now, the only way you can be responsive to somebody's issues, needs, and concerns is primarily by knowing what the person wants. It's by knowing what the issues are. It's by knowing what has been tried and whether that has worked or not worked, and therefore what needs to be done better. So I think this whole thing about responsiveness in our governance should be anchored on evidence, the use of evidence. And so I think that, you know, we're all asking this question: how can we make our democracy work for us? And one of the ways of doing that is through evidence-based policy making. Now the second one is whenever the WAEC results are released, primarily whenever the Ministry of Health releases figures on our progress towards meeting some of the Millennium Development Goals, and etc., we all talk about the concerns around or the challenges around access to quality public goods and services. Everybody keeps on saying, this thing is declining. Oh, in our days when we had the O-levels and A-levels, things were better. At the time that we had the middle schools, things were this way. And it's more anecdotal than even based on any evidence. Who says that during the O-level days, people were not failing? Or the GSS or why people are, you know, the performance rate is better. So in order to increase or improve the quality of public goods and services, particularly in the social services sector, I think there's a need for more rigor in the evidence that we use to make decisions. I think a third area is driven and has become quite urgent because of the economic, I don't know, I need to be very careful whether it's economic challenges or economic crisis or temporary economic issues that we're going through, or whatever term we decide to use, whether challenges or crisis or whatever. We are realizing that we do not have the resources to do everything that we have wished as a nation. We simply don't have it. We need to make choices. We need to make very informed choices. How do we use the limited resources that we have? And the only way that we can effectively utilize these resources is through generating evidence to support what are the best options. What do we do? What is the plan A? What is the plan B? What are the possible outcomes? What do we need to do to mitigate maybe possible negative consequences? For those of us who have been working with the donor countries for some time now, you know, the word value for money is never far from, you know, the reports and the requests that they make. And I think that as a country, even though it has been, you know, something that we've talked about now and then, but the imperatives of the current economic situation challenges us to see how we can better utilize resources. We cry daily when the Auditor General's reports are cut out. But again, the issue of the evidence of what is happening and how the effectiveness of previous measures has been. So on the basis of all this, I would say that the time for this project, this kind of project, is now. We need something like this in this present situation. But when we talk about the use of evidence in a decision or policy making, sometimes we make it sound like it's something new. It's something that's done over and over. Farmers in the community will tell you that for the past 4 or 5 years, the rains have started shifting in the pattern. It comes later than normal, and therefore they are going to delay the planting of their crops. That is the use of evidence. Maybe not the way you and I would generate it, but that is the farmer didn't just raise the finger and say, well, let me plant in August instead of June. It's based on a certain analysis. At the community level, we make bylaws, we make community laws, taboos, etc. And when you trace behind all this, there is some evidence, there is some analysis that has led to communities say that when you sweep at night, don't throw away the rubbish. Or on Tuesdays, don't go to the farm. They are not just, as we say, superstition. They are grounded in evidence. That may be not the kind of evidence that you and I would say this is evidence, and so we tend to dismiss that. And I think that when, without being patronizing, but when our mothers or our wives are going to the markets, they start telling you that Agbogbloshie now is a no-go area when we want to buy vegetables. It's better to go to textile markets. That the trend has been that the price of tomatoes is going this and this and that. It's the evidence. The only thing that is different now, in my opinion, is first that we are talking about decision making at a scale bigger than the family or the community. We are talking about decision making at a national level. We are talking about decision making on issues that impact on the lives of a very big population. In the community, the chief makes a decision or a policy. It affects 1,000, 2,000 people. The president or the minister or parliament makes a decision and it's affecting 24 million people. Now, in our partisan political atmosphere, everything politicized. You cough, it's either an NDC cough or an MPP cough. You walk and they say, well, this is the way MPP people walk when they're in opposition, and this is the way they walk when they're in government, etc., etc. To build consensus on critical national issues has become very difficult. And so we are getting paralyzed as a nation in taking timely decisions on the critical issues that affect our development. And the world is not waiting for us. The only way in which we can build the kind of consensus needed to move ahead is really to support whatever decisions that we are taking with evidence. So in order for us as a nation to move ahead, particularly in this partisan atmosphere, we need to use more and more evidence that will appeal or convince people on both sides of the political divide. But does it mean that as soon as this evidence is generated, it gets taken up? Or there are some issues that we need to consider? In the military regimes, there was nothing about openness in generating and presenting evidence. We didn't know how Kutu Achampon used to make his decisions. Even though, on hindsight, some of them have proven to be one of the most developmentally effective policies. The low-cost houses, Operation Feed Yourself, etc., etc., etc. But those were closed systems that you and I were not there. You and I were not invited, when those decisions were being made. But now we've moved towards a more democratic, a more open system. So the assumption is that because of democracy, evidence should guide policy making. And is that the case? I would say no. The incentives that guide the decisions and the behaviors of politicians is different from the kind of incentives that drive decision making at our levels. I mean, it may be an uncomfortable truth, but that is it. That you can generate all the evidence that you want. If 5 foot soldiers in the party stronghold say that we don't want this, but this is what we want, in 8 out of 10 situations, it's what the party foot soldiers see that would because in this current atmosphere, it's about votes. So if you have evidence and you want to use it to influence policy making, you need to find out where would be the most effective place or space or stakeholders to engage with. Because we're not running a government of technocrats. We're running a government led by politicians. Politicians want to get elected. Of course, they want to promote development and get elected. But there are other considerations that they look at when they are taking this. So that is one of the challenges affecting or constraining the use of evidence in policy making. That to paraphrase a phrase I saw somewhere, that the ways of politicians are mysterious, not easily understandable to we ordinary citizens. I think the second one has been the culture of decision making in the country. Again, I mean, I'm saying this because we need to have a very frank conversation, and it's not to point fingers. But the landscape is littered with all kinds of projects that we have started and we haven't thought through to the end. what will be the impact of doing this on the economy? Where are we going to get the resources to finance this? In the past, we thought that we could rely on this to finance A, B, C, D, E, F. How much did we get from those sources? And are they the ones that we can use to finance this? We want to do A, B, C, D, F. Where is the human resource? How long will it take to train the human resource? In the past, and that may not be the case, I may be reading it wrongly, but it seems as if we've done almost like on the spur of the moment decisions. We've committed the nation to very huge, projects whose implications we haven't adequately thought through, and that are now coming back to bite us. And I think that culture of decision making still exists in some places, and so you go with all kinds of evidence, and people are saying that. Now, how we communicate the evidence has sometimes also been a challenge. If doctors are presenting some evidence and you are not in that field, they finish speaking and then you ask your neighbor, what did they see? Even if you're speaking English. Likewise, if it's engineers or even we in the development sector, have jargonized the whole thing, and then it's one jargon after the other. So the uptake, it stands in the way of uptake. So the way in which we even communicate it, where we communicate it, who we engage with, are all barriers to the uptake of this evidence. So what should be done? What do we need to be looking at? Some of it we are doing already, but others maybe might be new ideas that we can pick up. The first is the rigor in the data collection and analysis. When you cut corners, you undermine the credibility of the evidence that is presented. That it needs to be rigorous, it needs to be reviewed, it needs to be challenged, so that at the end of the day, whatever you say will stand, the test of all the questions and etc. and etc. And in some cases, we haven't applied that level of rigor in the generation of evidence. I think the second one is the relevance. We all know that at this time in our country's history, there are some priority areas, there are some priority issues, there are some issues that are agitating our minds. So if you want to be listened to, I think it's better to start with the issues that are of immediate concern and priority. It's better, it's good to think long term, but I think that the relevance of what you discussing sometimes also is quite important. The third, this will be about the credibility and the legitimacy of those who are seeking to use the policy or to generate the policy. So it's really important that our legitimacy, our credibility is not one that can be doubted, so that it doesn't stand in the way of. Now, it's been quite surprising, but one of the very surprising things I found out working with Star Ghana, that a lot of those who seek to influence policy making are really ignorant about the policy making processes. Some NGOs decided to go to the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education to talk, etc., about education policy. And the committee told them that actually the first place you should have gone to should have been the Ministry of Education. We don't make policy in Parliament. Now, by the time the document gets to Parliament, it's almost a fait accompli. So if you don't understand how decisions are made, it becomes quite difficult for you to be able to engage the packaging, who you present it to, and etc. And now we've been dragging our feet around the freedom of information or the right to information bill. And I think it's fundamental if we're talking about research evidence in policy making. That if you don't have access to information, how do you undertake the kind of research that is needed? And the last point I would want to make is the need to develop collaborative relationships horizontally and vertically. So between civil and public servants and academia, between academia and the media, between the media and CSOs, and amongst all of them. Because even you, a public servant, might know that this policy has some challenges. Who would you send the information to that they can amplify and get others to listen to? Maybe just writing a memo to your boss might not be, but that it could be shared, amplified, and discussed and debated. So the importance of the relationships, I know there might be some things about this standing orders or the general orders or whatever that restrict the kind of information or interaction that you might have. But I think that if we are to enhance the effectiveness of the use of policy decision making, we need to think about building these relationships. And building relationships also needs for us to be innovative in how we do that. That it's not just a question of we go into a formal relationship and etc. We need to be quite innovative about how do you work with the media. And if you look at how policies and laws are made in the US, for example, a lot of it is driven by papers that academia, prepare. Sometimes not even directly to influence, but they go and research into the effect of Ebola or etc. So in conclusion, Chairman, the use of evidence in policy making for me is not an option, it's an imperative because of where we are in our development. Try and error will not lead us anywhere, and we'll continue dreaming about being a middle income nation, but continue to remain as a low income country in reality if we do the try and error. The impatience for the democracy dividend, people are getting tired. 20 years of the democracy, what have we gotten out of it? It's when we do make better policies that we can go back to our people and convince them. So let's build the capacity at all levels, let's build the relationships, and let us also be legitimate and credible as we seek to do. Thank you very much.
We'll now call on the Executive Secretary of GINKS to give us the outline of the program that we have for civil service.
Mr. Chairman, Board Chairman of GINKS, Principal of CSTC, Directors of the various ministries, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to make a presentation regarding our project that we are implementing with Civil Service Training Center, CSTC, of course, with the support of Office of the Head of Civil Service. This project, as we can see, our partners, we have the Office of the Head of Civil Service, we have the Civil Service Training Center, GINKS, which is my organization, and the funding we're getting it from different. BQO simply means building capacity for the use of research evidence. This is a program that is being sponsored or funded by different. And it is the use of research evidence in various work that we do, especially in policy making. And then using evidence to inform policy is not a new idea. In actual fact, we've been using evidence in one way or the other, as we heard from the previous speaker, Mr. Tanko. But what is new and interesting, however, is the increasing emphasis. That has been placed on the concept. Using BQO, you have three factors that you need to put in place. The first one is individuals with skills and access, evaluate and use research information. We also have the process for handling research evidence in policy making and departments. And then thirdly, a facilitating environment that identifies and responds appropriately to research updates. The aim of BQO is equipping policymakers with the capacity to access, evaluate, and use research. And the focus is on strengthening the demand for research evidence in public policy making process. Bakayoko actually is two words coming from one from South African language called Shona. Baka means to build, and then Yiko comes from a Tabani word that is from northern Ghana, meaning ability or capacity. So the Bakayoko means build capacity. We did this because we have other partners or other consortium members who are also in the Southern African countries. So we wanted a word that encompasses what we all do in this regard. The objectives: increase the capacity of policymakers to respond to research update needs in consortium partners countries. Also, to create an impact of better formulated and implemented policy and processes as a result of increased access, evaluation, scrutiny, and use of research evidence in partner countries. Like I said, Bakayoko is a consortium of 5 organizations that is implementing this program. The first is International Network for Availability of Scientific Communication, called INASP. They are based in UK, Oxford. They are the lead organization. We also have Ghana Information Network for Knowledge Sharing here in Ghana. And in fact, the key targets for INAS is consortium partners, policy, schools, or parliament and key department. That is the area in which they work on. In terms of evidence-informed policy making, they have other mandates, but in terms of evidence-informed policy, that's what they do. Ghana Information Network, our target is the Civil Service Training Center, and then Parliament of Ghana. Like my chairman said, we'll be doing same or adopting this course later on for Parliament of Ghana. Then we have Human Science Research Council, HSRC in South Africa. They are also going to work with departments of science and technology, other departments, and the Parliament of South Africa. Then we have Zimbabwe Evidence Informed Policy Network, called ZIPNet. They also work with ministries of science and technology, health, regional integration, international cooperation, and finance. The scope of Bakayoko in Ghana is that we are working, as we've been told before, with Civil Service Training Center, and the target is the civil service. And then we work with Parliament of Ghana, and our area of focus as far as Parliament of Ghana is concerned is the research department, the library, and then the clerks to the various subcommittees. These are our targets in Parliament. What has been done so far? We have been able to secure and sign an MOU with Civil Service Training Center, and I believe that is what has brought us this far. We have also implemented a course review exercise. What we did is we did not actually review the course, but we looked at the course that is being offered here in order that we don't duplicate things. And so we've come out with a report, and now we know which direction we are going as far as developing the course content is concerned. We have developed Module 1 and 2 of the course. The Module 1 and 2 of the course is exploratory, and then 3, 4, and 5 will be practical. So we have divided into 2 areas. 1 and 2 exploratory, 3, 4, and 5 will be practical. And so that is what we will be working on with Civil Service Training Center. We have also shortlisted potential trainers. If I now more or less trainers. Madam mentioned about the trainers, the agent and permanent. We have shortlisted trainers, and then God willing, we are going to do or have training of trainers. And these trainers are the people who are going to help us to train the participants from the various ministries. So done that also. And then we have also conducted needs assessment on the trainers.
Good people, this program has come at a very opportune time. I remember way back in the 90s, as part of the National Institutional Renewal Program, some research, we did some work and to find out the level of implementation of government programs, policies and programs. It was conducted by GINKS. The output shows that less than 30%, I think it was about 65 not completed. And just about a week or so ago, at another meeting with chief directors, it came out that we seem to be hovering around the same area. The last 2 years, less than 30%, or just about 30% of government policies or programs have been implemented. So the whole issue of policy formulation, program implementation, it's very, very critical. If, as a country, we have to make any progress in our developmental agenda. We are now said to be in the lower ranks of the middle-income countries. This has an implication in terms of resource flow from our traditional development partners and other means of getting resources. Therefore, it is imperative that we formulate our policies, we make our decisions in such a manner that we will not have projects dotted all over the country, and then we come back and we look for resources to go over at much more exorbitant rates. One of the major problems that we have, good people, is that unlike the advanced countries, where as soon as election times come and the manifestos come out, the people in the policy boxes will begin to look at the manifestos of the two major political parties, or three, those who are likely to win the election, and you start doing the analysis. You start looking for the evidence, so that whether it is free SHS or is SHA, quality SHS before free, you have the analysis. Let me say that for us here, two things very important. We will have to apply. This course is free. As Dora said rightly, you will have to apply. So that is for us. And I'm told that the first class or the first course will only have 20 people. I'm happy to know that at least we're going to have facilitators both in and out, and hopefully, based on their own experiences, we will benefit from us. What I'm saying, let's try to work together so that we can lift up the image of the civil service. Perception may be a general problem, but it is for us to work to ensure that that perception is erased. Let's learn and let's build for the future. On that note, I formally declare this evidence-informed policy-making course for the Ghana Civil Service formally launched. Thank you very much.
Our first thanks go to the Almighty God for ensuring that this program went on successfully without any hitch. Who has taken time off his busy schedule to come and chair the program, and that shows the kind of interest and passion that he has. And we hope that the evidence-informed policy-making course, which has been launched today, will become a success in the end. Thank you very much.